Hey, it's your boy Control. Today I'm going to show you guys how to go from standard to wild. I'm going to show you guys how cheap it is to make decks, and let's jump right in. So first off, what exactly is wild? Wild is a mode where all cards are usable. That means you can use your cards from Curse and Axramus and Goblins vs. Gnomes. However, if you don't have those sets, you do have to craft the cards now. You can't purchase them, unfortunately. Wild also features a separate ladder from standard, meaning that if you climb to legend in standard, you won't start at legend in wild. You'll have to start from rank 25 again. But at the same time, say you lose a rank 25 in wild, you won't lose ranks in your legend ladder in standard. In order to access wild mode, you should click the play button, go over to the standard symbol at the top right, click on it, pick a wild deck, and press play wild. If you don't have the option to click the wild button at the top, that means you have to go to your collection and craft a wild card. Myself, I would recommend just trying out a solid common, such as Piloted Shredder. You also need to click the all cards. If you just search Piloted Shredder in standard, it won't come up. Then you go search Piloted Shredder. Type that in. Craft one. Myself, I won't, but you will get the option. It'll say, this is a wild card, are you sure? Click yes, and then you'll have access to wild mode. Due to the different card pool, wild also has a different metagame than standard does. That means that there are different decks that are prevalent at higher ranks. For example, Egg-Druid and Malygos Shaman are two prevalent decks that are very, very good, both reaching rank 1 on either NA or EU, whereas they're not relevant at all in standard. This also means that the OP decks are a little bit different, and deck lists are going to vary a little bit. For example, Pirate Warrior is pretty strong in wild, just like standard, but you also get Despite and Ship's Cannon added. In the long run, wild can actually be cheaper than standard. This is because, in standard, all your cards are going to rotate out 2 years after their release, except for the classic and basic set. Whereas in wild, if you craft a solid deck like Egg-Druid, for example, where you can kind of tell that the core of the deck is going to stay relatively unchanged, then in the next 3 or 4 years, you'll still have relatively the same deck with maybe a couple cards changed. This way, over the long run, you'll be spending less dust and less money on Hearthstone. So if you're someone who doesn't want to spend that much money or even play that often, I'd say just craft one really good wild deck. Next up is actually finding that one really good deck that you want to use. In order to do so, I'd recommend checking out my wild tier list. Go down through here. I have a 25-minute video or so where I talk about all the decks and everything, but you can just check out the tier list here and simply see where everything stacks up, and then the individual deck lists. I'd recommend watching the video if you'd like to have a better in-depth idea of what your deck does and why I rated it where it is, but if you're just looking for, say, a Reno Lock deck, I'd recommend checking this one out, copy-pasting it. Just to show that wild really isn't all that expensive, I've thrown up all of the wild cards in all of the tier 1 decks, and yes, in the non-Reno list I do have 2 ofs. I didn't put 2 up on the slide, just for simplicity's sake, but in order to craft all of the wild cards in the tier 1 decks based on my tier list, it only costs 3,440 dust. That is again assuming that you have all of the standard cards already crafted, which is pretty unlikely, but this is just an idea that you can craft the 4 best decks in my opinion currently for wild for only 3,440 dust. So the mode itself isn't really too tough to jump into, and there's not really high barriers at the moment. So I'd recommend going ahead and doing so. So just a little bit about me here at the end. So again, my name is Control and I stream for Fate to Karma. I primarily stream wild. I do so every day at 1 p.m. PST to about 9 p.m. PST. So you can catch me about 1/3 of the time. I'll be live on Twitch playing Hearthstone in the wild mode. I also do play standard a little bit. I like to hit legend on both ladders. So I'll dive into that a little bit every month and usually just grind out standard near the middle to end of the month. The rest of the time though, I will be playing wild. I am currently sitting at rank 1 and have gotten it quite a few times with quite a few different decks. I have some deck guides in the description as well, based on my Reno Lock and my Egg-Druid, and also a link to the tier list will be in the description as well. Feel free to sub to me on YouTube, follow me on Twitter, and follow me on Twitch. I'd appreciate that a lot, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Peace out.